Hey everybody, Keith here. We are live in the lab. Live in the Business Athlete Performance Lab, being brought in by the Pet Shop Boys. You know, I love tunes. But I always said to Roland, we got to have tunes on the show. We got to bring tunes. We got to bring some atmosphere. We got to have some fun on the show. We're going to have some fun on the show today. We have Nicole Bernard. Who's Nicole Bernard? 48 miles in 48 hours. So nobody listening to the show would be sitting at their desk saying, what am I going to do today? Or what have I done on the last day? This person, 48 miles, 48 hours, and not just once. Today in the Business Athlete Performance Lab, Nicole Bernard. Before we get into that, I gotta say though, first couple shows here Roland's put together. We have Oliver Brown yesterday. The guy climbs Kilimanjaro like he's going for lunch. The guy just climbs all over the world. If you're looking for an adventure, you gotta go visit Oliver Brown. We talked to him yesterday in the lab. Summit Adventures. Go find him on LinkedIn. Oliver Brown, great guy, great conversation. Check out yesterday's show. If you're looking for ambition, you need something to do, you want to go climb a mountain, go talk to Oliver Brown. So that was yesterday. Today, though, we are going to kick on over to our guest, Nicole Bernard. Nicole, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat and connect.
I got to jump right into this because I read your article. Nicole wrote a piece in Entrepreneur, and this is what brought us here today. And it said, when I finished my last run, I broke down and ugly cried. I don't cry. Ask anyone that knows me well, but there were so many emotions. One of the biggest emotions was how grateful I was to finish and that I was even able to do something like this. Sure, the exhaustion might have contributed, but the feeling in my gut was life-changing. And this is what grabbed me, Nicole. And I haven't been the same person or business owner since. I read that and I said to myself, this person is a business athlete. I got to talk to her. Nicole.
Yeah, it was crazy to think. Even looking back now, I probably wouldn't have thought that would have been one of my biggest feelings after finishing that. But yeah, it was just such a crazy experience, especially the first time. I've done it a few times since then, because I really like it. Still kind of gets you bare bones of different kind of getting into your head, especially in the middle of the night when you're running. But yeah, it was an awesome experience.
So let's be clear to anybody who maybe is not following along here. So you ran for 48 hours straight.
4 miles every 4 hours. So have you ever heard of David Goggins?
I've read his book, love the guy. Would be great to have him on the show one day. Maybe you
that would be amazing.
We can have him on the show. But yeah, I'm definitely a Goggins fan. So, and again, that's what kind of reading your story. And I'm like, yeah, we got to talk to Nicole.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read both of his books. He's amazing. So that was it. A friend asked me to do that. And I was kind of, again, like you saw in the article, I just rolled my eyes like, there's no way I'm going to do that. I just don't want to do that. But then ended up just kind of felt like it was something I needed to do, almost kind of like drawing like a line in the sand of like, can you really do this? And that was kind of where that started. And then, yeah, just all the things that I learned about myself and what I'm actually really capable of. And when we think we can't really go on, then there really is a lot more left. So yeah, just so many different lessons that I really never thought that would be about, that the whole experience. So yeah.
What was one of those key lessons that you never thought would have come out of this? Besides the fact that you said publicly that you're a better business person now because of this experience.
Yeah. So again, just kind of the whole, getting up at midnight and 4 a.m. when there was a collective group virtually doing it. So you did kind of have some accountability if you wanted it, which was great. And you also kind of knew other people were in the suck with you, but it would have been so easy just to turn the alarm off and go back to bed. So again, just kind of like digging deeper and realizing that there is so much more that I could explore and that I'm capable of, and taking that into business as well. That mindset of, things might be hard right now, but how can I fix this? And, you've gotten yourself through hard times personally, business wise. And so just, again, kind of taking that mindset and applying it to all areas of my life.
That's interesting. You said mindset. So mindset plays a crucial role, we know, in business and endurance and going through challenges like this. I know I guess I'd pride myself somewhat of an endurance athlete. I like to get on my bike and ride for a long time. I did 50 kilometers today, and that's just kind of normal. And because to me, it's a mental thing. It allows me to
Uh-huh.
focus for the rest of the day. Explain to
Yeah.
myself and everybody else listening how, the mental fortitude that took you through those 48 hours. It wasn't physical,
Yeah.
was it?
So
It was really up here, was it not?
right. It was all mental. Yeah. I mean, yes, physically it sucked. But it was the mental of, nobody's going to know if I don't go, like I'll know, but, I really, again, just at 12 and 4 in the morning, 2 days in a row, you're kind of just really, especially that second day, not wanting to do it. So it's again, like, are you going to step up? Are you going to meet this? Even though it really sucks. And like, as humans, we're inherently lazy. Apparently that was like a Harvard study.
Yes.
And so having to push against, that like angel or devil on your shoulder saying like, oh, don't worry about it, just go back to bed. But then once you get through those things, when you get up, do whatever is, challenging you, you realize like, oh, I can do more things like that. And then it starts to build, and your mental space is able to, deal with more and, bounce back quicker, things like that. Is what I've found for like different mindset.
Is the
pieces.
feeling of accomplishment not amazing once you struggle with the two shoulders, and then
Yep.
you beat the bad one, and you go through it, and then you're like, oh my, I just did it, and you feel
Right.
amazing, don't you? Doesn't it just feel like incredible? Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, what else can I do? Like, what
Yes.
else could I, attempt or try? And you also have, a little bit more courage, and also knowing that, like, again, it might not be perfect, it might be hard, it might be scary, but I can try. Another example that I had recently, I've made a goal this year to do a half marathon a month, and I'm on track. So my half marathon in July was going up Mount Hood. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't look at the course before I went, and I really, really, really hate heights. So I went to turn back like 3 different times, and had I not gone through the Goggins challenge, I probably wouldn't have been able to complete that. So that's just another like building block of being like, this is really scary. This is very uncomfortable, but you've done really hard things before. So again, just able to like start building in other places too, and knowing that you can do it.
So if you're on the podcast right now, this is Nicole Bernard, and she just said that her goal was to, let's repeat that, Nicole, to run a half marathon a month.
Yes.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody listening is struggling with what they're going to do next. There's a challenge, right? Somebody you are on your path of doing that right now.
Yep. Yes, I have one next weekend that will be number 9, and then I have October, November, December races planned out too. So
Fantastic. And then you said you have another 48 in 48 coming up as well.
yes, I haven't scheduled that yet.
Okay.
So the one in March is usually whenever like all the Goggins followers, and
Yep.
he usually gets in on it too. This is the one I did. And then I like to do another one at some point of the year. So at some point I'll be doing that, hopefully soon. If anybody wants to join, let me know. We can all schedule it together.
Fantastic. There you go. There you go. Nicole, what drove you to David Goggins? How did you end up there?
Yeah, so one of it's actually my husband's best friend from high school and college. He kind of got into running a few years ago, and I kind of actually started running. Coincidentally, we both actually started running after we lost family members to cancer. So I think, and they were also both Marines. And so we just really kind of connected, and running was kind of a way for me to get my, emotions out, again, move my body, different things like that's how I coped. And he introduced me to David Goggins. And then I was like, oh my goodness, guy's amazing. Like, he does so much. And then from that cascaded into like Jocko Willink, like all of these amazing, like pretty disciplined people, but it's so important, that whole mental aspect of, life, business, all of that.
If you were to sit down with David Goggins, fireside chat, have you?
Yeah. No, he responds to my Instagram messages sometimes though. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
All right. So we're going to tag him in this post, and Keith and Roland's ambition here is to make tons of content from all these shows we're doing. So ideally we're going to tag Goggins tons of times, and one of these times he's going to come back to you, and ideally he joins us on the show. And why don't we do this?
Amazing.
How about we do this? If Roland and Keith are fortunate enough to get David Goggins on the show, would you come back and co-host with us?
Oh my God. Yes.
That'd be awesome,
I would
right?
totally do that. Yes.
Cool. So then I throw to you. What's the first question you're asking the guy? And David, this is going to come to you. So when you do join the show, because Well, he's going to show. Well, so why wouldn't he? Right? He's puts pants on the same way you
Right.
and I do. So what's the first question you ask
I
him?
know he doesn't do a lot of appearances though, but I don't know. Like that would be amazing. I don't
We
even
can
know what
ask.
I'd
My
ask
mom
him.
always taught me, Nicole. My mom always said, you can always ask Keith.
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
Right?
all I can say is no. Like that's not gonna.
100%. So what's so fireside chat? Nicole and David, what's the question you're asking them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would ask him, like, again, how he consistently, like, I think that's where, like, how he consistently is able to show up in the way that he does. Because it's just amazing. And I do think it's his mental lab that he says, you know, he goes inside his mental lab. And he's calloused that over the years, but I guess that would be like, okay, that would be like the number one tip of what people could do today to start, on that path of, increasing their mindset, their efficiency, like all of that stuff.
Nicole, you seem to have figured out how to execute. You seem to have figured out how to do it consistently. I sit back with my partner AJ Zeglin and my friend, and we chat about it, and we always say that there's no magic to any of this except consistency and execution. And yet so many people struggle to do those simple things, right?
Yes.
I also read an interesting stat that, 99% of people are just our listeners, not creators. You and I are creating here. And yet there's such an opportunity to create and monetize that and express oneself. Why is it so hard for many, do you think, to execute consistently execute?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think, people like inherently we're scared of being judged, and so we're kind of scared of putting ourselves out there, whether that's writing or video. I know that's held me back for a long time. I really don't like video. So again, I think it was just kind of, I'm learning to get over it for sure. But that's just not in my nature naturally, but again, I guess, for growth for anybody, like we have to get uncomfortable, like that's just part of it. And that also helps us know, same kind of thing, that, wow, I can do uncomfortable things and I didn't die, and I make amazing, connections out of this. So I think there might be that. And then I think we get in our heads a lot as well, like the, analysis paralysis of like, okay, I've gotten over the hurdle of like, okay, I'm going to do a video, but then what am I going to talk about? Or maybe that's not what people want, or things like that. And so then we just kind of, and it's like a little cyclical thing. And then it never ends up being executed. When, I've used this example tons of times. Like if you ever go back and look at Gary Vaynerchuk's beginning videos of like the wine library, amazing. Like nobody starts out perfect, and so again, I think the key is just starting,
And then how would you attribute that to fitness? I would say, is it just simple as going for a walk to start, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Maybe
10, 15, 20 minutes.
Maybe the 48 and 48 can be a walk. You don't even have to do the run out of the whole thing, right? Just the mindset of getting up every 4 hours and
exactly.
Right. A place to start.
The other people sometimes just do squats, like whatever it is for like that 40 to an hour time of like some sort of physical activity. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be running. That just seems to be the most popular one. And I don't think people realize too how connected, like the mental and the physical are, like when you're moving your body or you're exerting energy, like it's such a connection and a tie to the mental. And I don't really know how to explain it.
No,
but
listen,
you know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean. And I don't know if you heard yesterday's show. I don't expect that you did, but Oliver brought it up too. When you're going on long, so he climbs Kilimanjaro a number of times, and he's like, Keith, when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, you have a lot of time in your own head. Mm-hmm. Like when you're running, right? I know my wife runs, and she uses it a way to, just kind of get out there and just kind of express and be emotion, right? And probably like yourself, right? But it's a way to have that time in your head, isn't it? Just kind of get out there, right? And how you use that time in your head is entirely up to you, but it's a great place to it's a great place to go. Yeah,
definitely. And I think we have so many distractions this day and age that a lot of us don't sometimes take the time to just sit there in our head and, just kind of like, well, what's really going on in here,
Yes.
I have not listened to Oliver's yet, though, but we did connect on LinkedIn, so I do want
awesome.
to go
Great.
listen to that.
Cool. Well, then you know what? This whole venture, Roland, I got to call you out, man. And this whole venture is working so far, right? We're starting these. It's interesting, Nicole. I'm going to call you. You said you just got to start, right? So I'm a perfectionist guy. Things just have to be perfect for me. And this thing, I'm like, all right, we just got to go. So we just started doing this. And I'm like, Roland, the ambition is noon Central Time, Monday to Friday. He's like, what? I go, yeah, live. We're going to do it live.
Yep.
He goes, really? I'm like, yeah, like that's just, let's set the bar high. And if we fail, we keep trying and we keep getting better every single day. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to own that noon time slot. Not that I expect everybody watching live, but we're going to grab a time slot. We're going to set an ambition and we're going to go. And, and the ambition is to connect people. So now you and Oliver have connected, and ideally we can connect a lot of people along the way in the lab here with these philosophies of bringing business together, you know, performance together and mental and physical and talk about it and see how they all come together. Right. So you talk about, go ahead.
Oh, I think that's great because I didn't really realize how important like the whole mindset aspect was because we're not taught that in college. We're not taught that in like business school or, you know, things like that. And so I wish, you know, again, you can't only know what you know, but the earlier we could help people understand this, the better.
Yes. That's what I say to my kids. You know, I'm the same as you. You know, I'm the same as you. I just have years of wisdom and experience that I can share with you. Right. So if I can share that with you, I don't expect you to always listen to what dad has to say, but if I can share it with people that I know and then you can hear it from them, then yeah, you're getting the message from dad. But the reality is that if we can share our wisdom, what you've learned, what I've learned along the way, hopefully some people along the way can take a piece of that too. Right. So, what is some of that? Share the experience of doing those midnight runs. 2 a.m, 3 a.m. What's the world like? Most people, again, train during the regular hours of the day. What's the world like in the middle of the night when you're all alone doing your thing?
Yeah, it's quiet. It's really quiet. So I didn't want to run out. So all the daytime runs and early morning runs I did outside. But I wanted to, you know, just being the woman in the middle of the night, I decided to run on a treadmill, which kind of running on a treadmill kind of sucks. Like that's, you know, monotonous in its own way.
Yes, so there's a mental battle there.
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, I got a 24-hour access week pass for a gym here in town and did that. And really knowing that you're going into a treadmill in the middle of the night is really nothing to get excited about. So that whole other aspect. But again, it like the world's quiet. It gives you even more, I guess, feel like, you know, just an added digging deeper. You're also kind of slightly groggy because you may have had like 2 hours of sleep before, like since the last run. So then that puts a whole other aspect to it. And then you're trying to like run at a level to where your heart rate doesn't go crazy because you know you want to go to sleep when you get home. So yeah, just all of those kind of different things you're juggling in the middle of the night.
Were you working during the day?
I've done it on the weekends. Okay. So it started Friday mornings, and I would end, Sunday.
Yeah.
But my kids had like soccer games, so you're still trying to, you know, plan around, you know, life activities and stuff like that. So
right. So that's interesting. So how do you now? Let's talk about work. Let's go into work. Let's talk business. You know, in your experience, you worked with Microsoft, Remax, I believe it is, right? So, talk about business, the athletic side, weaving it together, and how you've become, you know, a better business person because of your recognition of the mental side and the physical side.
Yeah. So I think it goes back a little bit further. So I've played soccer my entire life. I played Division I soccer and just also the discipline of, you know, having to be an athlete. Similar things, having to get up at 5 a.m. and be in the weight room. You're also accountable to your teammates. I think those life skills really helped me in business. You know, you have to be, you know, pretty disciplined to be able to execute running a business. And also you're accountable to your team members, your clients, different things like that. So, but then, you know, that was 20 years ago. So doing this 48-hour challenge last year was kind of like a reminder and almost like a reset, which was great. So again, just kind of reinforcing like that mental aspect of discipline. You know, you can get through really hard times, whether that's, you know, running at 4 a.m. or, you know, business dips or things like that. So just think all of those aspects of, you know, being an athlete are just such an advantage for business owners.
Would you consider yourself competitive?
Pretty, yes.
Okay, I'll read between the lines and everything you've just verbally shown me. So
Yes, I'm a little competitive.
yeah. So then I can only think then that I would say you're probably mentally competitive too, right? It's like a mental it's right. So it's so you're you take that to business, don't you?
Yes.
And I'm going to think that that probably has increased only because of your exploration now and this physical mental things you can accomplish. Like, all right, I can do that, and I'm really going to go after this.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I got really uncomfortable doing this. How can I, get uncomfortable in my business to grow, and hit the next goals, things like that.
You've mentioned being uncomfortable. I love that because I think that that's the only way we move forward, right? Is being vulnerable. You mentioned,
Yep.
your hesitation towards video. I can relate to many of these things where you sit here and you're going, okay, I should do something, but then I've learned is that the more vulnerable you become, once you look in your own mirror and you can recognize your vulnerability, the easier then you can express yourself to everybody else. And you know what? At the end of the day, what the hell does anybody really care?
Yeah.
Right. And I don't mean that in a derogatory or in a negative way. I just mean that you're human, I'm human. We all have our failures. We all have our stories. And if we can at least recognize that, I think we can have some really good dialogue.
Definitely. And I think kind of what you were saying, I think we think about how people will perceive us, but they actually aren't putting as much thought into us as we are, like they're not really thinking that. Yeah. So if we can remember that, yeah.
Well, and I think there's something, it's also the fact that we're not kids anymore, right? Like, so are some of these emotions linked to those days of being youthful going, oh my God, my kids are going to, I'm going to be teased by my friends. Really? Like I'm actually an old dude here who's sitting behind a microphone in some basement in Canada. And having a great conversation and, trying to keep people entertained, right? In this attention economy, right? So, we're trying, right? Everybody's trying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
totally.
talk about,
I think people actually like seeing others, even if they can tell they're slightly uncomfortable, like if somebody's on a live video and they're kind of flubbing their words. We're such intrigued creatures that we
100%.
like seeing someone do that.
Yes.
And then it's like a supportive way. Like I think we like seeing other people succeed.
we look no further than reality TV. I think, right? We look no further than shows like Big Brother, Love Island, any of those shows where there's a voyeuristic aspect. We just want to watch people. It's really, right? We just want to watch humans either succeed or fail, but we really just would love to do that, right?
Yeah.
Right? So let's pivot a little bit to Bubbles and Biz. What inspired you to start Bubbles and Biz?
Yeah, so being an entrepreneur a few years ago, I was a solo entrepreneur at that point. It was pretty lonely, and I kind of wanted a community that I could connect with, other business owners that were kind of going through the same thing. And I really love champagne, so I just shoved them together. Same kind of thing though. I almost canceled my first 5 interviews, even though they were not even on video, because I was so nervous. Like that is how much how uncomfortable that made me. Like the champagne helped a little bit, but
yes.
But now, now I look forward to them.
The champagne helped a little bit. So any entrepreneur out there, the champagne always helps, according to Nicole Bernard. You're going to see that in captions on Instagram all over the place. I joke, but that's awesome because it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Are you comfortable here? Are we having a good time here?
I am very comfortable. Yeah, you were a fantastic host. And
thank you.
This
I
is great.
That. That's awesome. That's very kind of you.
Yeah.
So, Bubbles and Biz. Let's keep talking. Listen, guys, we got to prompt Bubbles and Biz. So if you're listening to this, subscribe to the newsletter. I did. I will admit I haven't read much of it yet, but I subscribed to it, and I'm encouraging everybody else to subscribe to it as well because there's probably some pretty cool stuff in there. So Nicole, let's talk about Bubbles and Biz.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for encouraging everybody. Yeah, that comes out on Mondays. It's kind of like a, what's new in the marketing world, kind of like the Skim, but marketing. So that's just nice to keep up on trends and things that are working, algorithm changes, stuff like that. But yeah, so again, the Bubbles and Biz, it has been amazing. I've met and interviewed people from around the world. I still have friends that have been on the show. I've had other past guests come back on. It's really been an amazing community and an amazing experience. And the same thing, we're trying to share what we've done, what has worked, how we got out of our comfort zones. So it is a bunch of, kind of business nuggets and tips and things like that from other business owners.
Have you monetized Bubbles and Biz?
I have not. It has been on my to-do list for like years, but I just never have.
Yeah. Is it, can we go down this path? Is it something does it make you uncomfortable? Like going, how do I monetize this? Or is it because it's become such a community of like-minded individuals that how do I now ask them for money? Let's talk, because I ask that because, I think a lot of newsletter creators struggle with just that. How do I monetize this thing? I like creating something. I know I'm creating value for people, but how do I ask somebody for $3 a month or $5 a month or $7 a month? Or how do I,
Right.
Because your time is worth something. So what's causing the hesitation, Nicole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have looked into it a few times. I think, that is my issue. How? Like, do I do like sponsored ads? Do I just get a one sponsor? Do I charge a monthly fee? Like, I've never gone down that road to figure out what would probably like be the best option for Bubbles and Biz. So that right there is the holdup.
I wonder. So I wonder, as we move into a world where content is continuing to be created by AI, and we question what's real, we question what's not real, and
Yep.
They predict in 2 years 95% of content's created by AI. And I say all of that because I believe what happens along the way is we instill a lot more trust in the human beings, right? So all of your followers that listen to Nicole, there's value now in what you have to say, whether that is $5 a month or $3 a month. And I think it's going to allow a lot of creators like yourself, perhaps myself and others, to, independently make a pretty good income doing this.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah. I mean, robots aren't going to, experience what we experience in real life,
Correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, professional growth, personal insights. And I have some questions here, and I'm just kind of glancing over to, so I got to be honest, we've done, right? So when we built the lab, it was always, how can we do things leading with AI first? So, so not that we don't want humans, but listen, the tools exist. What can we do to expedite workflows and everything? So we, grabbed the LinkedIn content and grabbed the entrepreneur content and sat down with GPT-4 and said, hey, let's put some questions together for Nicole, and we'll ask her some questions. So we've been really effective with that. So one of the questions was, how do you handle the stress and overwhelm that comes with the fast-paced world of digital marketing? Let's restart that. How do you handle all that? Because you're active physically, mentally, in all you do, and plus the digital marketing world is not slow. So how do you manage that stress?
Yeah. And I do have to say, I jumped in the lab the other day. It was pretty cool. Like, I've never seen anything like that. So it was pretty neat to just start here and do these. Yeah. So I'm going to have to dig into it a little bit more. But it's really, really cool.
So it's kind of turned into this incubator where when I started this, it was this, I wanted to create things and build things and offer value to people. And it was, along this premise of bringing business performance together, athletic performance together, and providing value to CEOs, CTOs, C-suite executives on how they can either drive their business better or drive themselves as human beings better. Right. So if you had a big, hairy, audacious goal and you're like, hey, I want to go climb a mountain, or I want to go change my life next year. Well, then come talk to us in the lab. We'll help you do that. Right. So, but how do you handle the stress of the fast-paced world of digital marketing? What do you do? What's your stress relievers?
Wine? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And champagne. No, champagne gets you going. Wine chills you out, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what has been really fun about also doing the Bubbles and Biz newsletter, not that I wasn't on top of trends before, but has really helped me kind of focus and laser in on keeping up with these things. So if I feel like I actually know what's coming ahead as opposed to like digital marketing running over me, you know what I mean? Because like you said, up there a million different channels. There's a million different ways to do digital marketing. There's always something changing. But I also work with my clients and people that I coach to understand like the foundational parts of that and what would work best for their business. So you don't have to like necessarily worry about the million channels of marketing. If you know where your people are, what they want, what they're struggling with, you can, laser in on those. And then we'll teach you the best practices and stay up on the trends and stuff like that. So you don't have to like feel overwhelmed. So I run every day, the races, again, being outside, moving my body. I listen to different audiobooks. So it's funny to where I have like the David Goggins, Jocko Willink, very structured discipline. I also have kind of gotten into like Napoleon Hill, Bob Proctor, all of the almost like spiritual aspect. And I find that those two are different, but they are so parallel in the different ways that I am able to digest that and use it in my life. So that helps a lot. Getting outside, listening to that, and then, having a pretty decent schedule. I could be a little more consistent with that, but.
You bring that up then, schedule, because my next question I was going to ask you was, one of the ways that I manage stress is that I live a pretty boring life. It's pretty consistent. Like every single day, it's very much the same as the day before, but it enables success for me. Is it the same for you? What is your schedule like, Nicole?
Yeah. So, get up before my kids get up, knock out a little bit of work, which I like, because I just, the house is quiet. My head's actually pretty clear in the morning. Then school, stuff like that, which this summer I did not have much of a schedule. I will be honest. We did a lot of traveling and it was great. Like we embraced all of that. My kids turned 13 and 10 this year, kind of big milestones. So so like, again, that kind of like that ebb and flow, the balance, if you will, like knowing that was going to happen was great. So it took stress off, not feeling like I had to be on all the time. But now that school's back in, then drop them off, go for my run. They'll listen to new books that I'm listening to.
And then it's a good bit. The kids in the car get to hear your audiobooks?
No, but I need to start. Like, if David didn't curse so much, I would totally put like, you're gonna have to redo that book, but like kid friendly.
Well, you know what, actually? So we're gonna dial David back in. So David, as you're watching this podcast, because Roland, we're gonna tag him again, and here's a cut for David. David, if you can make kid friendly content, we could monetize it to a brand new audience, right? So we either bleep it out or we just edit out, or you just don't say those bad words. And then we can bring your audience down lower than probably the 28 to 50-year-old consumer, probably. I'm thinking, Nicole? Yeah. So maybe we can open his audience up to probably maybe 10 to 28 if he can cut out all the cursing. So there you go, David. Just cut the cursing back and we can sell more books for you or sell more audio stuff for you, right? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I had one of my girlfriends forever, her son is a junior in high school, and she had seen that I shared a bunch of, like, when I was reading, especially Never Finished. Like, I loved Can't Hurt Me, but Never Finished I thought was just amazing. And so she got that book and she was like, I love it. Like, it's a little much, but I'm going to give it to my son because he's a competitive football player, and it's just changed his outlook on things too. So he's even younger. But yeah. So
there you go. So the same day every single day, right? So you get your run in, and then you get your work done.
Yep.
And then the evening is
then family.
Then family, right? Yeah. So I'm a morning guy. Got to take care of my own mirror. I use the term mirror. I got to take care of my own mirror first. So I got to get my coffee out of the way. I got to get my mental state, my physical state done before I can give myself to anybody else, whether it's my kids, my wife, my colleagues. That's just how it has to work for me. So I get up early in the morning, get myself going, and get my cardio in. I get my lift in. I get my so I train 7 days a week, and I say that, but not in a training, because to me training is also recovery. Let's talk about recovery,
right?
Because many people think about training as I got to go lift or I got to do something crazy every single day. Let's talk recovery. How do you manage recovery as part of your 7 days?
Yeah, so there was quite a while that I was doing like what do they call it, streaking. So I was running 7 days a week for just, I don't even remember how long I did that. And now I don't particularly have like a recovery day.
Yes.
So it's usually Sundays if it's going to happen. And so again, I kind of listen to my body. Like if I need to take a Sunday off, then I do, because it's also kind of hard trying to cram it in before church. But so that, I just kind of listen. Sometimes when I'm out running and I do feel tired or something, I'll walk some of it and not feel bad, because I know that tomorrow's a new day and I'll be, crushing it, and there's a race coming up, things like that. But I don't have like a set recovery day. I just kind of listen and gauge.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm the same way. I listen to body, but for me, recovery is as much whether it's going for a walk for 30 minutes or doing a stretch, but it's doing at least something physically and or mentally to take care of my own person, right? Because
totally.
To me, recovery is not just laying on the couch all day either, right?
Right.
Right. So,
which I think growing up, that was like what I had in mind, like, oh, I just get to do nothing and like eat what I want.
No, it doesn't work that way, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You said eating, talk about nutrition. So how has nutrition affected you as you've aged and as you've had family and as you've, become, in your physical activities? Talk about nutrition, talk about the importance of that and how you've learned to fuel you for 48 hours and those events that you do.
Definitely. So I've started in the last year doing like the intermittent fasting. So I don't eat until like 10 in the morning. And I've liked that. I know everybody's so different. And whatever, I honestly think whatever works for your body and your lifestyle, like that is fantastic because we're all so different. But I have liked that. And so I actually like running before I eat because I get pretty just tired after I eat, like now that I'm in that schedule. So yeah, nutrition's played a really big part. I eat just pretty like a wide variety of stuff. One thing about me is I hate fruit though. I do not like fruit. Like everybody thinks it's so weird. I know.
Yeah.
So I could incorporate more fruit into my diet, but I love.
Thing? Or is it you mean like no fruit at all? Like you're a zero fruit human being?
Like zero. I'll eat some blueberries in the summer sometimes, and that's probably about the only one. I love avocados, which are technically a fruit. Like I'm definitely more of a savory person.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess that's why.
Yeah.
So a lot of vegetables. Like I love vegetables, a lot of meat. Just kind of that's pretty much our diet is meat and vegetables a lot.
So Oliver intermittent fasted, you intermittent fast, I intermittent fast. Is it by design for you or is it planned for you? I'm sorry, is it designed for you or did it happen by accident where you just don't eat? Or is it like, no, you mentally know I'm not eating right now. And then when I do, I'm refueling properly.
Yeah, so it did kind of just happen by accident. I kind of noticed like if I would eat before I would run, and different aspects to that. And then I just did a lot more research on it too. And so then now it is just a habit. I mean, my body doesn't even get hungry until the second I walk in the door from running. So yeah, it's just, and I really liked the way it's made me feel ever since I've started doing it like consistently.
Yes.
So yeah.
Interesting. Nicole, in your article, you talked about gratitude. And you mentioned a couple times here, even today, gratitude's important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, it's easy to look at things negatively. And so I've tried really hard of realizing just, what I am capable of doing, what I'm able to do. I have lost both of my parents to cancer. They were like a little over a year from each other. And I think that's actually really what kickstarted my whole mindset, nutrition, all of that journey. So again, too, just being able to be grateful that I'm alive, and to make the most of it because life really is short. So
yeah, it was those moments in your life which were clearly wake-up calls for you.
Today is the 7th anniversary of my dad passing away.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
And so, no, thank you. Just again, being able to realize and even be thankful for like the great time that I did have with him. Just trying to figure out what any positive is and try to focus more on that.
Your vulnerability is contagious. So I'm going through a period in my life now where my parents are getting older. My dad is going to hit 80 this year. My mom is 76. Oh. They're active as I'm fortunate because, you have lost yours, but I'm also recognizing that, if mom and dad are listening to this, this is no not truth, but the days ahead of them are less than the days behind. Right. So, and you start to see just things, you just start to see age. Right. And you kind of, I don't know, but as much to them as it is my own age, like, oh my God, like I'm actually that much older. Right. So it's that the whole thing kind of messes with your head. Right. And it's messed with my head here in the last week because my mom has been a little bit sick and she's fine. Like she's fine, but she's also 76. Right. Love my mom. Mom, I love you. Right. But there's a reality happening there. Right. So, we can choose not to talk about it or we can talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. Right. So, totally. I haven't lost my parents. You have, and it's interesting how that was it was a turning point for you.
A big one. I like I said, I kind of started running after that. Like I was always I've always been an active person. But that was my way of coping with my grief. And so that's, since become, it's just part of my life. And the journey of even starting that, and I hadn't really even lost anyone before that I knew very well. And it happened very quickly. And so that just was such a hard time now looking back, but also, hard times usually, create a lot of growth. And that's what, I was able to get out of it, and to be able to continue to grow and to share with my family, with my community, just different things that I've learned along the way.
You're live in the lab with myself, Keith Billis, and awesome guest, Nicole Bernard, being vulnerable, talking about life, frankly, talking about some great things here in the lab, great conversation. I went through a series of, I went through significant growth as I went through divorce 7 years ago. Went climbed some mountains. And as I said to Oliver yesterday, those mountains were metaphors for me of like moving, like a physical representation of moving my feet forward and then seeing what I accomplished behind me. Because on the other side of that mountain, Nicole, where I started, it's physically, it's back there and you can see it, like, and you can see the point in the sky. I've climbed to the top of that, climbed to the bottom, right? So I can appreciate, through those difficult moments, perhaps of losing your parents, what then changed for you to progress forward.
Yeah. And, on days that you didn't really know what to do or how you were feeling, or you felt numb, you could always just go, like you said, and have a one step forward, as you don't even really know where you're going or what the outcome is going to be. But as long as you're still moving forward, that's progress.
Isn't it though, right? It's so hard though to move forward. As I said yesterday, I wear this busted up wristband. My wife today says, get rid of that damn thing because it just scrapes me all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but it pole. And it's just this idea of moving your feet slowly it just moves me forward every single day. It's so simple, Nicole, but so meaningful for me,
Right. Totally.
What you can accomplish just by moving those feet forward. As an entrepreneur, you're laying in bed there, or whatever time you get up and you're like, all right, I got to tackle the day. I got this problem I got to deal with. I got my kids and I got to do this. And you're like, all right, how do I do it? You got to get it to bed, don't you?
Right. Yep. That's the first start. Yeah. And I think that's too, like, as humans, as entrepreneurs, we always want to know like exactly where we're going, like, okay, this is the goal that I want. And that's great. We can have goals and we can have plans, but we don't really know how to get there. Like, that path, I feel like, does not unveil itself until you actually start going, which is like the scariest part to do. Right.
Yes.
Like, cause you're not really sure. But you will never know unless you just kind of start. And then consistency, like you're staying on, even if it's a little progress, like just still, what can you do to inch forward?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What do you love about being an entrepreneur? And what does that word mean to you, entrepreneur?
Yeah. I love helping my people. I love helping my clients, whether it's doing their marketing for them so they don't have to do it and they're, growing their business and doing what they love, or I love teaching them how to do it. I love the freedom of being able to have my own schedule. I can work at 4 a.m. if I want, or I could, work till midnight. Just to me, it's, kind of just freedom. And I'm so grateful for that. Again, going back to my dad, he worked his entire life in banking. And again, it happened so quick that he didn't even quit his job. He was just taking a few sick days. Oh my goodness. And he always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And when that happened, I was like, I don't ever want that. Like, he was not happy. He commuted into Portland. And I think that was also that generation of kind of like, okay, you get a job and you work. Like, that was how it was. And I just didn't want that. Like, I wanted to be able to spend time with my family. I wanted to take off if I wanted, did 3 days up at a lake this summer for my daughter's 13th birthday. I want to be able to help more people. So that's what it means to me. Your
dad said he always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
He even tried a few times, but it never quite took off. So
there's a lot of people listening right now and watching that want to be entrepreneurs, but are reluctant to take the step. You did. You did, right? And it was because of dad, right? So good for you. That's, I don't want to say because of dad, but he was certainly one of those, he was certainly an inspiration for you to make that step.
For sure. So even before that, I don't know if you saw, my husband and I had a small business for 7 years.
Yes.
And we ended up getting.
You've been in the family business for 14 years. You're running small business. microbrewery, family farm, boutique winery. You've done a number of things. Let's talk about that, right? Yeah. So business is not new to you.
Right. Yeah. And so, we ended up literally like causing too much traffic that our neighbors complained. We went through a whole like cease and desist, public hearing, all of that. So from there, I went to go work at a marketing agency. And to me, at that point, like, having that ripped out from under us after all the hard work we had done, having a stable job was the easy thing, and that felt comfortable for a few years. Yes. And I learned, a lot of different things from them. They were amazing. But then, when my dad passed away, it kind of like, like, all right, stop, being scared of what happened the last time. Jump back in. It's a roller coaster for sure. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I think, entrepreneurship is hard for sure. But a lot of things that are worth doing are hard, right?
It's true. Yeah. Your resilience is incredible. You've clearly, your family, yourself have had failure in life or situations that haven't worked out. I know it's a strong word, but I'm going to use it. Haven't worked out. So you've had to battle through it. So resilience is something that clearly is, it's just part of you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think at this point, it's kind of, but I think we're all more resilient than we realize.
Our kids are more resilient than we think, don't we?
Oh, they are incredible. Yeah.
You must be, I guarantee you make your kids proud when they see how hard their mom's working, right? That's pretty cool, right? No, but that's pretty cool though, right? You think about that, right? Because my mom, when I talk about the business athlete lifestyle, it's not about, again, having the six pack or having the big biceps or whatever it is. It's being like my mom. You know what she did last year with us? She was with my kids and all of us. She was tobogganing down the mountains in Alberta.
Oh,
right. So
amazing.
There's my mom, 75 years old, falling into this toboggan and squealing down the mountain like a 12-year-old schoolgirl with such glee and joy. And Nicole, you're like, oh, that's what it's about there. That's what being a business athlete's about, right? Is living to be that, to do that, right? So I bring it back to your kids seeing you live your life, and probably clearly like your husband as well. They're set up for clearly some great success too.
Yeah. I mean, I think kids in general watch us more than we realize, and so, going through the things that we have gone through has, by default, maybe even taught them resiliency,
Absolutely. Nicole, as we wrap up here, we're coming up to 10 minutes on the hour. Last few minutes of our conversation. This has been awesome, Nicole Bernard.
Yeah.
Any comments you want to offer up to the audience, or anything you want to throw on the table that maybe we haven't discussed or you'd like to discuss, because the floor is yours.
No, I guess just my one thing that comes to mind would be to, just maybe even sit down today, this week, sometime soon, pour a glass of coffee or wine, and just think of how you could get started, whether it's something super small, as like we mentioned, even walking outside for 10 minutes, or if you do want to start a business, maybe start researching what you would want to start and how to maybe steps towards that. But again, like we mentioned, we're never really knowing exactly. We can have great plans, but we never really understand where exactly we're going. So just know that, you can do it. You're super tough. Which way you're thinking of challenging yourself or starting something new, you're so much stronger. And then just to maybe take those little steps to get started.
That's awesome, Nicole. You mentioned something here just a moment ago. I want to bring up before we do wrap is, again, I refer to my conversation with Oliver yesterday, but we talked about, so Oliver doesn't consume alcohol. I don't. You like to have wine and champagne, and nobody has judgment because we all have our preferences. But I ask this because physical fitness is important to you. And a lot of people listening go, well, if I'm going to go work out or if I'm going to be all physically fit, I can't drink. Well, no, but you can though. Like there's a way you can not just a way, as Oliver said, if you want the greatest, simplest life hack, then cut it out. But there's also a way to make it part of your life and enjoy it part of your life. How do you make sure that you're enjoying your wine, enjoying your champagne, but also taking care of yourself physically? How do you find the balance, Nicole?
Yeah, well, I think that's like with anything, like moderation, right? Definitely what, enjoying a glass of wine is what I like to do, and I try not to do it much during the week, so I have a few boundaries around it because I do know like I can't run when I feel like, just,
Yeah, 'cause you don't feel
and I
good,
look,
do you? Because you say don't feel good.
right. Yeah.
Right,
If it's too much, and I've noticed too, as I've gotten older,
Yes.
like I feel more
You ain't
tired,
seen
feel
nothing
more
yet,
affected.
kid. You ain't seen nothing yet. No.
I don't know, everything started to go down after 40, and I'm just kidding.
I had a friend of mine say to me, he says, Keith, once you hit 50, things are going to change. And I hit 50 last year. And I'm like, oh man, actually things are coming a little sore every now and then. And I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are going to keep changing.
Okay. So they're coming. I got more to look forward to.
You do. You absolutely do. You absolutely do. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like anything, like if I eat a bunch of junk food, I don't feel good about myself, or I feel, I can feel it in my body. So it's same thing, just for me, moderation, and what that looks like for people are different,
Of course. Of course. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Nicole, this has been a lot of fun.
It has been a blast. I can't believe it's been an hour already.
It has been, yeah. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. So you can find Nicole Bernard on Nicole, don't call her Brown, Nicole Bernard. Yeah, that's kind of my at the beginning there. So
I have butchered so many last names on Bubbles and Biz, so don't feel bad.
Well, so thank you for giving me permission to do this next. So you got to give me a second because I'm gonna tease my show tomorrow because I have, and I don't want to mess up this gentleman's name, but tomorrow Sardor Akhmedov, entrepreneur. He's doing some really cool things in the app development game. So Sardor Akhmedov, Sardor, I hope I didn't butcher your name up. So if you're hearing this show today or tomorrow, I didn't butcher it, but Nicole Bernard today, Sardor tomorrow, live in the lab. This has been a lot of fun. It's been almost an hour. Like I said, I reckon, as my friends in London like to say, I reckon we're going to have to do this again.
Yes. When David comes on, right? Like,
absolutely. When David comes on, 100%. Yeah. And if we're looking for a guest host here in the lab, if I'm out climbing a mountain or something, Roland, so I got to be honest, when Roland and I are prepping for the show, I'm like, dude, she's like a hardcore business athlete, man. Like, look at her, what she's done business wise and athletic wise. I'm like, if we can't be here, maybe she's going to be a guest host for us. He's like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So, hey,
that would be fun.
There you go, right? We could do guest host with Nicole Bernard here live in the lab, and then she can interview David Goggins. David, Roland, one more clip here for us. But yes, you can do a one-on-one while I'm out climbing a mountain. But so this is our ambition. We're going to do this. We're going to do this daily live in the lab, and you're welcome here anytime. You obviously are. I want to create fireside chat, create fireside dialogue. I think there's a space in the marketplace for conversation that brings and weaves in the concepts of high performance business, high performance athletics. Obviously, we have AI. We didn't talk about AI. How is AI impacting you?
I don't use it as much as I should. I just used it the other day for only probably like the third or fourth time to come up with a bunch of prompts for content. I know. I know. And I do know it's, making some changes SEO wise. I've been keeping my eye on that. So yeah, I need to dive in a little bit more. So we should have another conversation about that. So you can give me all of the.
I can help. So I use it in everything that we do. I try to weave it into pretty much every part of my workflow. So either going into a meeting or after a meeting and then summarizing, I really try to, because beginning of the year, I started using it. And I said to myself, why would I not just use this all the time? So it's become a really big
it does save so much time, right? Like, can it save? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's tons of time. It's funny to say that because anybody who says to me, and here's the business athlete part of this whole thing. And this is when I'm like, when AI started kind of emerging and we're kind of bringing these business athletic concepts together, nobody can ever say to me, and now you, well, Nicole, I don't really have 30 minutes a day to take care of myself or an hour of my day to take care of myself, because by using GPT-4 or Claude or any of the platforms, Bard, I can guarantee you can find 30 minutes a day by spitting some content out using AI or using some tools.
Yes.
So those 30 minutes you can put back into yourself.
Right. Yes.
It's like magic,
as much as I don't know about it, I know that is true.
It's actually magic. So if somebody says, well, I don't have enough time in the day. Well, you know what? If you use AI, I guarantee you, Roland, here's a quote. If you use AI, I guarantee you'll save 30 to 45, 60 minutes a day. Boom.
It's awesome. And that adds up a lot. Over a week, a month, year, like
think about that, right? Think about 60 minutes a day, what you can put back into yourself, right? So that's fantastic. All right. So because I'm a tunes guy, I'm going to play us out with a little bit of this. Yeah. Some Pet Shop Boys again. Are you a Pet Shop Boys person? Or am I overly dating myself at this point?
No, I don't know them that well. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So a little bit old school, like UK pop and stuff, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. Hey, it's Keith Billis here, along with Nicole Bernard and the Pet Shop Boys. Nicole, I have a budget for this show. I'm licensing these tracks. So I'm like, all right, I want some real tunes on the show. So I went out and found a provider that I can license commercial music and we can entertain the audience, because we are, as you know, in an attention economy.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yes.
Right? So we need, so it's not just about, educating, it's about entertaining too. Right?
Yep.
So if we can entertain, we can keep the audience, we can keep them listening. They're going, who's this Nicole person? All right, she's an expert in this, Bubbles and Biz, and she's a digital marketing expert, and they come talk to you. Oh, this Keith guy, right? So we entertain, we inform, we keep them engaged, and we'll keep them engaged with the Pet Shop Boys.
Awesome.
So
I love it.
we're going to say goodbye today, live in the lab. Keith Billis, Nicole Bernard. Tomorrow, Sardar Akhmedov, live in the lab, noon Central Time, Monday to Friday. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Apple.ai. And one last plug for Nicole. If you're looking to learn about Bubbles and Biz, go subscribe to her newsletter and go find her on LinkedIn. Nicole, last word to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. Some of the things I love talking about the most are, how we can push ourselves and business and all of that. So this has just been so much fun.
Awesome. You stick around when we say goodbye, and we're going to play out the Pet Shop Boys.
Awesome.